This conference will now be recorded.
Third, we'll call the meeting to order. Stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh Lord, as we gather today for the important business with people of the village of Owego, grant us the impact. All right. And we'll go to public comment.
For the record, I'm Peter Gordon, representing the Friends of Owego Evergreen Cemetery. I have two requests. I put the paperwork in front of the board. As the board knows, the Friends have been working on restoring the Evergreen Mortuary Chapel with Fred's great help. We have just finished the new parking lot on East Avenue and the new sidewalks. And thanks to the great new bid that you got, we came in under budget with our $25,000 grant from the Mildred Parker Truman. We're $100 under, and one of the requests is a suggestion for use for that $100. So in continuing restoring the chapel, we'd like the board's permission to paint the interior of the chapel and to get new doors for the chapel. In both cases, these will be fully funded by the Friends and with contractors that Fred would approve of, but with not to use his limited resources. And so I'm asking if the board would approve those two projects, and also to approve us writing the grants to pay for those projects. So that's the first request. The second request is that the board had previously agreed that we could install historic and directional signs. There's a picture. We were to install two of them. One is up by the caretaker's cottage for the office up in the cemetery. We have a second identical one, which is now stored in the mortuary chapel. Anything artistic is going to install them now that we have the sidewalks and the parking lot done. But this request is, we'd like to nominate to name the parking lot in honor of Marie Ward and Barb Fink. Barb Fink, the former mayor, was in large part responsible for getting Evergreen on the National Register. And Marie Ward was the founding member of Friends of Evergreen, the first president, and treasurer for the OFA and the museum. And so we would like to put below the directional sign just a vinyl strap like the one that recognizes the astronaut in Appalachia, and the wording, the dedication to Marie and Barb is in that wording below. And we'd like the board to agree to that, to adding that, to naming it in their honor. So thank you.
Is
Is the next item on the agenda gonna be discussed tonight, or is that gonna be put off? I just don't wanna talk about it if it's not gonna be addressed tonight.
Yeah, I would imagine it should be put off since it's between the terms.
So we haven't heard anything back from them?
No. Nate's on tonight. Nate, are you there? Maybe you change it to me. Oh. But no, I know it's still between the two attorneys, so I would imagine what I can do.
Might I ask a couple of questions about the possible liquor license, even though it's not going to get discussed further?
Sure.
For example, did the previous owner have a liquor license? Did any of the previous owners before that have liquor licenses? And does the new owner somehow get the house liquor license transferred to him?
All good questions. I don't know the answers to.
Yeah, I think that was one of the questions, if it was, that's what they call grandfathered in. Yeah, that was one of the questions.
And my understanding is that they can't transfer a liquor license. And if they can't, and I believe the gentleman a couple of weeks ago said that their estates are a year behind, then what do they intend to do for a year without a liquor license? So they'll,
Right.
I know you don't have the answers, but, maybe Nate does, but I just thought I'd bring it up.
You can dig them up, I'm sure.
There you go.
Well, since the subject is sort of coming up, I would just like to say one thing, that business is in an R2 zone and is not allowed to have a business there. So there's really no sense for liquor license discussion, because the state liquor authority is probably gonna say, you're not zoned to be a business.
Is that something that changed recently, or that's been in effect?
I have something to say on that issue. I don't know whether you received copies, but I brought them to the office this morning. They were letters done by my father back in 2005, complaining about the traffic noise, drunks, barfing, garbage, et cetera, going on at the Pompelli House, and asked for the mayor at that time to please respond to the complaints since it was zoned residential. So this problem has been going on since 2005, and it has never been resolved.
Before our administration.
Yeah.
So it's your turn.
Yeah. So I was just trying to inform you how long this problem has been going on. This isn't just a new problem.
Yeah, no, that's
It's the same old, same old, same old.
all good information.
Yeah, my 2 cents is that I would assume, because we've been informed by this board, that zone multifamily, R2, whatever, is not zone commercial at any time. So for them to make a stretch from a 3 to 5 room Airbnb to 200 people catering events, that's commercial, clearly. So I would think it would be this board that would tell them they can't do that. Because you guys are elected officials to follow the zoning rules. You can't vote against the zoning rules. So that would be my input. And logically, you should all come to the same conclusion that you've got to follow the zoning laws. You can't say they can have a function for a catering hall for 100 people or 200 people, knowing that that's a commercial entity enterprise in a zoned residential area that would be against your interest, and probably would invite possible legal action from this group. So I don't think that's where you want to go.
So far, that's 6 cents information we have. Because all of this is great information, and we have that for ammunition to go against.
For example, I grew up here. Mr. Pompelli lived in that house forever. It wasn't a bed and breakfast. I delivered newspapers to him. I don't know when it started being a bed and breakfast, but even when even if it was grandfathered in as a bed and breakfast, they got 3 or 4 rooms. That'd be one thing. They shouldn't need a liquor license for a bed and breakfast, and they shouldn't have a liquor license for a 240 person concert that's just my opinion, I could be wrong.
No, I talked to Nate earlier. Black up now, but,
You went dark.
he disappeared. Yeah. There he is. Well, anyway, his only advice for me was, just that it's between code enforcement and they have an attorney, we have an attorney, and that's where it is, so.
What's that mean?
What's that?
What's that mean? Between code enforcement and,
So it's because it's potentially in violation of zoning, it's a code enforcement issue.
right,
So they've sent them letters.
Well, I guess the question is, we're all waiting for what the village board is going to do in response to Albany for their application for a liquor license. That is definitely in your ballpark, is it not?
It is, so Nate could help us with that. I think the only options we have are to do nothing, to write a letter of support, or to write a letter of non-support. Right, Nate?
But if they don't get their liquor license.
That's right.
People who want to have a party there can apply for a temporary liquor license on their own. It only takes 15 days to get that.
And the operation is a code enforcement issue, so, which is being enforced.
So it's not zoned for what they're using it for? How much grant money have they got from the state to make that what it is? I'm not here on their, this is the first I've heard about this. So how much grant money has the state given them to do that business? And now they're saying that they can't be a business?
So Mike, if I can just jump in, I understand the public has a bunch of questions about this property, but to reiterate what you mentioned and I advised earlier, this is an active, ongoing code enforcement issue. I'm going to advise the board to not answer any questions because it's quite a strong potential for litigation concerning this property. This is not the, in my opinion, appropriate forum to be answering, questions in a way that may prejudice our ability to prosecute or defend a lawsuit in this matter.
As far as the letter, I think that plays into that too. So.
The letter to the liquor board, because I think most of us would suggest that we write a letter saying, not zoned for business, not zoned for liquor license. We don't agree with having a
It's just
liquor
the law,
license.
it's that simple, it's just the
But,
law.
Well, it's not,
That if the new owners want to follow the rules, go for zoning variance, and let the neighborhood comment, and approve or not approve, that seems to be what really should happen, instead of looking dagger.
we know you can't answer questions, we're giving you opinion and information.
Completely fine.
To go with.
It's completely fine. And the lawyers don't have to hear it, so. Anybody else have any comments on that one? Or any other public comment in general? All right, so we'll move on from public comment. Does somebody want to make those motions for the cemetery?
is that, everyone finished with the public comment?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I would, request that, the village, allow the Friends of Owego Evergreen to continue doing upgrades to the mortuary chapel by painting the inside and, replacing the doors. In order to do that, they'd be applying for grant money.
I second that.
Okay, any discussion on that? Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
And yes.
Okay, and we would, Friends of Evergreen have also requested that the, parking lot be, dedicated to Mayor Barb Fink and Marie Ward by adding a plaque to the sign there at the, Orange. I recommend that we do that.
No, Dave.
You guys say it,
Did that get a second?
Yeah, yeah. Our thing died here, it does that every meeting, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Fran?
Yes.
Dara?
Yes.
So. Liquor license, we should probably table until Nate tells us what to do with it. We agree on that?
I agree.
And what about, or, we got Brittany. Are we still Brittany? She's been hiding.
I'm here.
We want to do Brittany first, because she's probably quicker than Hunt.
Yeah.
We're gonna stay for Hunt anyway.
I could go. Well, I probably would stay anyway, but I can go too.
Sure.
Okay.
So, Brittany.
I hope you guys can all see me. Brittany Woodburn, I'm the director of the Tyler County Property Development Corporation, or otherwise known as the Land Bank. We're in the process of acquiring a long-standing vacant abandoned building on North Avenue, 81 North Ave, next to the fire station on the other side of Harris's Diner. And the Land Bank intends to use land bank initiative funding that we receive to help stabilize and rehabilitate the structure. And we also intend to apply for a New York Main Street grant application to support the rehabilitation of that property. And part of that application process to the New York Main Street program is that we receive a resolution from the village board in which the property, or within the municipality that the project is. So we submitted a resolution and would appreciate if you guys would consider supporting that application request. The land bank would be completely responsible for administering the grant and receiving the funds. It's just a resolution of support for the village board right now.
What's the future use after it's been converted? Who will do the conversion and what are all those details that are?
So the land bank would manage the rehabilitation project. It'd be on the first floor would be commercial and office space. In the second floor, there's a 2-bedroom unit. It would remain a 2-bedroom unit. And on the third floor, there's a 2-bedroom unit as well. So we just fully rehabilitate the property. And land bank hasn't made a final decision on it yet, but they'll either sell the property to get it back on the tax rolls, or we'll form a separate for-profit LLC to transfer the property to. Either way, it goes back on the tax rolls. Hopefully, creates additional tax revenues for the village. It's assessed pretty low right now. Like I said, it's been vacant and abandoned for probably over 15 years at this point.
So is there something that's going to be related because it's going to be sold to somebody? That's like not a nonprofit, or, like some sort of, like that, it'll be on the tax rolls at the first sale. It's not going to be like a pilot program or
No pilots. So we would either sell it, like how people sell any properties, we list it for sale and anyone could submit offers and purchase it. Or the land bank is considering forming a separate for-profit LLC, and we transfer the property to the LLC, and we pay taxes on it just like everyone else. There wouldn't be any pilot, and it wouldn't remain in the nonprofit's possession. It would be transferred to a for-profit LLC.
What's that look like when there's like $500,000 invested into that building and then you sell it? What's that? What's the price of that? Like the buildings around it? If they see that building sell for something, what's like sort of that price look like compared to everybody else on the block?
I'm not sure I understand the
I
question.
feel like
It would-
resale values around the block and like apartment rates and stuff, like what?
Are you asking if the land bank invests a certain amount, would we sell it for that same amount?
Well, sort of, like you're putting in $1 million.
We wouldn't sell it for $1 million, is that the question?
Well, so it's gonna be like a 2-bedroom apartment on the second floor and a 2-bedroom apartment on the third.
Yep.
And, sort of like what, around the neighborhood is that, what's that? Yeah, like are they going to be doing any sort of, market rate stuff with the?
Market rate housing, yes. Yeah, there's no, you're asking if there's income restrictions on the grant funds, there are none. There's, with the New York Main Street Grant Program, they set rent limits, there's no income restrictions, and the rent limits are set across the state, so they're actually very high for our area. I think the rent limit for a 2-bedroom is like $1,500, which is market rate here, so there really aren't any restrictions.
Brittany, is this the property that's, that is contiguous with the Harris Diner?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I was just, I couldn't figure out where we were talking about.
Yep.
Will the land bank be the contractor?
No.
To
We would-
overlook the,
No, we would
Upgrade?
hire a contractor, we would do a fair bid process and, do a request for proposals from general contractors, and they would submit proposals, we have to get a minimum of 2, to be in line with our procurement policies in the grant program, and then we just have a general contractor do the actual rehabilitation work. Okay. Pass it out to you guys.
How much of the grant do you request?
So for the New York Main Street grant, we're gonna request $275,000. And then we also have our own land bank initiative funding to supply the match for the program.
so what do we need to do?
So all Brittany's asking us for is a resolution that we support the process. The resolution's on the agenda. Does anybody else have any other questions for Brittany or the land bank? Does anybody want to make this motion? Sure. So Brittany, what's the timeline on the grant?
I'm sorry, what's that?
What's the timeline on the grant you gotta submit?
It's, due July 28th.
So you already have the grant, approval?
From the land bank, yes, they've authorized us to submit it, but, again, we have to submit a resolution of support from the municipality where the project.
So this resolution goes in the application, which has to be turned in July 28th. And then, when will we hear on the actual grant?
Not until December.
Okay, I'll propose that the, land bank, go ahead and apply for this grant for the building on North Avenue.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion on that? So suggest that resolution on the agenda. Michelle. Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Easy, because I have to abstain.
I need to remember the board.
I'm the treasurer.
Yeah. just curious how
Other than that, Brittany, did you want to give any sort of update on the other project?
On the Providence,
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
I do.
yeah. I don't want to take up too much of your guys' time, but I know you guys, most of you are familiar with the land bank acquired, several properties on Temple and Liberty Street. And last year, gosh, it's gone fast. We demolished, 10 structures there. And initially the intent was we had a partnership with Neighborhood Housing Services, and they were going to rebuild an affordable housing, development there. It was like 43 units. They ended up withdrawing from the purchase agreement and withdrawing their, site plan that was under consideration by the village planning board and zoning boards, just because of some zoning issues. And so, I think you guys also know, Providence Housing has been looking at the site as well. They're another affordable housing developer out of Rochester. I know several of you guys went and actually looked at some of their properties. In Elmira, yep. And I know we've talked about that, for a little while, but we've kind of gone away from it a little bit just because we've been negotiating back and forth with Providence about the property. And we're just getting close to reaching an agreement with that, with a purchase agreement and a purchase price with them. They're proposing a 12-unit development, which is a lot smaller than what was initially proposed, fits within the zoning, for that area. And they're looking at, possibly doing duplexes, handful of duplexes and a handful of triplexes. So, like I said, I know it's probably been a little bit since you guys have heard about it, but that's just because we've been negotiating the terms of the sale with them. So,
You said handful,
handful of what? Sorry.
you said a handful of them, and is that like 6 or
12
10?
units. 12 units. Yep. So a handful.
In total.
What's that?
12 units in total.
Total. Yep. So I don't know if anyone has any further questions. I know, we'd just be signing into an option agreement with them at this point, and their intent is to, start actually, investing some funds into doing site planning to see where they could lay out the units. They want to work hand in hand with the board. I know they plan to engage the neighbors, some nonprofit agencies and other folks in the village to make sure that the development really fits and it's supported by the community. They don't want to have a situation that happens with INHS where it's not wanted, by the community neighbors. So,
Why is it always apartment buildings though? I mean, we just built those apartments over across the river.
yeah.
I'll look at some single family housing in there. There's people out there looking to buy houses in the village that aren't $300,000, $400,000 front street properties.
No, I know. I think I don't have obviously an answer to all of those things. I'd say cost is a huge thing. There aren't a lot of funds, from the state that support single family housing new construction. I do think the land bank, we partnered on a rehab on 437 Front Street, and we're trying to rehab and save structures where we're able to. But yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the funds that are available to support that kind of development. But I do think that that's worth mentioning to Providence. They may be, if they get enough input from the community, that may be something they're willing to do there as well.
Like neighborhood housing, there were nonprofit, which meant really no tax dollars coming in. What they were getting was a pilot. You need houses on the tax rolls, not all this nonprofit stuff.
So I know,
That's a political football, but, in general, the state doesn't support that like they do apartment buildings right now. And that's an Albany problem.
So this developer is looking for
Always
grant
a
money
problem.
from the state?
Any developer that's gonna build anything is gonna get grant money,
Okay.
or they're not gonna build it.
A question?
Sure.
Would a duplex be considered 2 units or 1 unit?
2 units. And then they do a handful of 2 units and a handful of 3 units for a total of 12. 12 units is what's being proposed.
Okay.
So a lot smaller
So
scale.
six buildings at maximum.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's much more fitting with the neighborhood.
Which, I mean, just personally from touring their properties, that's exactly what they like to do as far as Providence, because we went on that tour of all the properties in Elmira. I thought they were good.
Yeah, some of their,
Very
the
well.
one building was, what, 15, 20 years old?
Yeah, you couldn't tell, it looked like
Yeah,
brand new.
it was very well cared for. Very well.
Did it come with its own parking?
Yes.
It did, yeah. Yeah, no, it was very nice setup, actually.
Yeah, now, is this something that the planning board, village planning board needs to deal with?
Eventually. It's not to that stage yet, but eventually.
Well, how are we gonna make a commitment?
We don't have to.
I'll just give you guys an update. I know it's been a little while since I've come back. We talked about it around 6 months ago, maybe. And I know people have been asking what's going on with it, and it's just been a long process of negotiating, getting appraisals done and all that. So I just wanted to let you guys know where it stands, and that once we sign the option agreement, they'll be back to talk with you guys and the neighbors and other agencies, on the site plan, the actual development of it, so.
When we were talking about that before, I heard a lot from people who said stuff like, Barney about the wanting single homeowner opportunities and, smaller houses fitting the neighborhood, people having like dignity and pride in their houses, and the ability to have some, design control, a yard, a garden and park their car in it. And so like our, and we, certain people have brought up small housing, like, tiny housing opportunities and stuff. Pat Gavin, mentioned a place up in Syracuse that had already, built stuff like that. And, so are they looking into, quirky small homes that people could afford?
No, not to my knowledge, and I don't know if the zoning there is tiny homes allowed in that zoning district.
So tiny homes aren't really allowed anywhere, but we have the zone that we have to apply somewhere. But we could apply.
Yeah, no.
Tiny is a word, but smaller size.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
More affordable, or so that like people, might be able to afford a smaller home or more manageable on, some small size lots.
What they're considering right now is what I've talked about, is the duplexes and the triplexes. I do think that, and, Fran and Mary, you can weigh in, when you met with them, they seem very, very open to hearing from you all. I think that'll be honestly, once the option agreement is signed, I think their next step will be to talk with you guys, to talk with the neighbors, to talk to the community and see what's really wanted there. Initially, that was their plan, was the duplexes and the triplexes.
Yeah, I will say, what they're planning to build is completely within regulations. Now, land is owned by the land bank. They're selling it to a private, other LLC, whatever it is. And they're gonna build exactly what's allowed within the zone. So they really don't need any approvals, but they are doing the good faith of trying to get us involved, and get the community involved. They can just do the sale and come in and build what they want. We can stop them, honestly.
So they would be building this to rent them out, not to sell them? So they'd be getting tax dollars, would they be getting a tax break on that also?
Affordable housing does anyway.
So they're using taxpayers' money to build them, and then they're not paying taxes. So it's costing residents of the village money to have them there.
That's the affordable housing game that the developers play, that New York State
You don't have to like
allows.
it.
So they're gonna do this somewhere.
Yes, and there's, right, by law, they're allowed to have those in place. A lot of them negotiate pilots with the municipalities in good faith. So there are, right now, the properties are owned by the Property Development Corporation. We're a nonprofit entity, so there are no taxes being collected on it right now. So, if this development is built, I can't speak for them, but likely they'd like to negotiate a pilot in good faith. And so there would be revenue generated, but not through the typical tax levy process, but more than being generated now on it.
And even if they don't get a pilot, there's a whole big formula that New York State came up with for affordable housing units of what they pay for taxes, which is typically less than the amount they would pay in the pilot. Again, it goes back to equality. And that's how these developers make a lot of money.
And these guys are actually a nonprofit agency, so
Right.
they really don't generate a whole lot of profit from the state.
Yeah, no, they seem like a very good group.
I'm sorry.
And they were very open to the fact that we asked, you know, to have off-street parking on the properties. They understood that.
Yeah, well, they seemed like good men. We went and toured their properties, they were nice, they were maintained, they were background checking the people they were putting in there. I mean, they were really doing what they were supposed to be doing.
Does this have off-street parking for all the?
So they haven't developed the site plan yet, but yes, their intent is to have parking and to follow, you know, what's required with the zoning code.
Our zoning code says you have to. And they're very interested in following everything to the T.
Without asking for a variation, if you just plan on
I don't,
providing parking.
I don't know until they develop the site plan, and obviously that hasn't been done yet, and they would be the ones to make that request when they submit the site plan to the planning board, if there are any variances, but to the mayor's point, they seem really keen on trying to follow the zoning code as much as possible and sticking to that. Anyone else have any questions? Okay.
Thanks, Brittany. Sorry.
You're welcome.
Barry, so now to the hard one, we'll go into our franchise.
Yes, so we officially have the test results for the auto park. So, you know, we have a number of these DRI projects all being developed now. And in the process of conducting some infiltration tests on the art park, our investigator noticed a fuel smell. You know, by New York State law, that's one of the indicators of polluted soil that has to be called into DEC for a spill. So we called that in, we have a spill number, we conducted 3 tests in, you know, a unilateral triangle around the pit with the fuel smell. And one of the pits came up completely clean, no detected items. One came up with a detected items of metal compounds and petroleum. We didn't get additional testing to really break those down, but they are at levels that would be considered commercial use, meaning that if you wanted to develop anything on this lot, it would have to be rated for commercial level development. And then the third pit was industrial levels of petroleum and metal compounds. So at this point, what needs to be decided is, in order to develop this site, we really need it to be within the residential or restricted residential categories for that. So there's a whole bunch of categories. I mean, ideally, you want to be in the unrestricted use. You know, residential and restricted residential are slightly above that, and then you have commercial and industrial. So we would need to bring them down to the residential or restricted residential areas. What exactly that entails as far as the remediation of that soil could be, you know, taking off several layers of soil, you know, 2 or 3 feet, bringing it down, putting a barrier, and then putting clean soil back on top of it prior to development. It could be, you know, digging down 3 or 4 feet, removing all that soil permanently, and bringing in clean soil. There's a number of remediation methods. The first thing that would really need to happen is we would need to do a more extensive delineation. So since our initial investigation, all we really had to go on was a smell, we wanted to make sure we actually had some sort of pollutants before we spend a whole bunch of money on anything. Now that we know that there is, we would recommend that you go in and do, you know, a dozen or so borings across the entire site. That would give you a really nice picture of where the remediation needs to be completed, how much of it needs to go. From that, we would develop a plan, submit it to DEC. DEC would then approve the plan or decline it or make recommendations for alternate adjustments. Total costs, I mean, if we did all of that testing and then when we didn't find anything except for the pits that we've already shown, you're looking at minimum 50 grand. And that's probably being pretty optimistic. These things also tend to snowball. It's a little bit like pulling a thread. You find a little bit and then you dig. And I mean, as much as you find at that point, you're invested in it. You have to do whatever it goes for. So that's where we are with our big question here. So the other side of this coin is Marvin Park, which we bid out several, feels like forever ago, but I guess it was several weeks at this point, is coming up on its time where we have to make a decision on whether or not to accept bids or decline the bids. And unfortunately, the bids did come in at about $2 million, which is almost 800,000 over where our budget was. So we've talked with the state, and there is some potential to move around the funding. Since this is one contract with Owego, there is some potential to kind of shift money around and make sure that you guys can still build something. So one of the options you essentially have is to transfer this money from the art park to cover this project that's big, and then you can accept it and do that. The alternate is that if the DEC says that you have to do some sort of remediation on that, then you have to figure out how to do that out of pocket. There's no guarantee that that's what they're going to say, but there is a chance of that. We did get confirmation from the state that if we did develop the site, we could use the state funding to do soil remediation and stuff on the site to make it. So there's an opportunity there to get that work taken care of on the state's dime. But you would obviously then have to cut the money from some other set of projects in order to make that up. Yeah, I think that's the full summary. So ultimately, there's a couple decisions. I think we've kicked this can down the road quite a way. To shift money so dramatically. So usually it's one thing to shift a little bit of money from one project to another, but to cut an entire project and pop it on top of another, or vice versa, that's a more drastic change. She did indicate that she didn't see a reason, but she did want to check and make sure. And she was supposed to give us some sort of verbal indication, non-committed, which we did not get. So obviously there's some risks with any of those decisions.
My biggest comment, I guess, is there's a risk of accepting those bids and assuming that they have money, and then if the state says, no, you don't, then we're really in trouble.
James, what was the total amount we now have set aside for the art park?
So the construction budget for the art park is $1,037,770. So that does not include the 140 that we had established just for art. That was technically budget that we cut from other projects that haven't quite been developed yet. So as far as numbers go, that 800,000 is what you would need to cover Marvin Park, and then you would essentially have a surplus of approximately 250,000 to decide, where else you would apply that, and that's kind of what you have to decide based on what the state allows you to do. Ideally, they would let you divide it up as you feel like you need among the other DRI projects. Ultimately, they want to see a project that is influential, is
I keep using the term transformation.
Transformational, yes.
Because we talked about cutting portions of Marvin Park, like State Park. And then the state chimes in that makes it not really transformational. That you're just kind of band-aiding what's over there and not really doing a lot of anything.
Well, there's like a $200,000 difference there, right? Between what we need for Marvin Park and what we have set aside for the art park.
Yeah, so there's.
So could we take 50,000 out of that to do the rest of the testing?
You could, you're opening a bit of a can of worms. So if you do the testing, you find stuff, it's kind of the same situation, you're on the hook at that point, you do extensive testing. Right now, you guys kind of have a bit of, what's the, well, what's the word? Where's the lawyer when you need one? Now,
Wiggle room?
when you separate yourself from it,
Right.
the deniability, plausible deniability. You guys received this, you instantly found it, you did the right thing, you know, by your due diligence, you submitted to DEC, you did the spill, you did the testing. If DEC says, doesn't say anything or doesn't come back to us, you know, we chased it down from the state level and on our level. If they don't say anything at this point, you guys really don't have to do anything. So there's a question of a can of worms there as well. I mean,
So we do have a question out to them, you know, what does this mean and what could we?
yeah, I mean, I've been in contact with him 3 times. I've sent him the soil results. Like, I haven't really gotten any help as far as what they're going to recommend or what they want to do. Yeah.
I hate to go back to the future on this, but why wasn't this survey done 3 years ago, before the planning, I mean, see a spot, we like to develop on this, let's see if it can be developed on it.
So
Wouldn't that be in the first step?
No, unless there's some sort of indication of that the soil would be polluted. So we did do this, and well, I guess not us, Cornell did do this for you. If you look through, they show the previous history. It's a hardware store, it's residential, there's no indication that this property would have had any pollutants or any soil issues. In addition, all of the New York State hazardous maps, all of the DEC maps, all of the environmental resource maps, they don't show anything that should indicate that this is there.
So we went on that and said, look, this can be built on, but now, 3 years later, we have a point where, oh, you smelled something.
Yeah,
How
so
come we didn't smell it then?
nobody dug it, so it's 4 feet down in the ground. So in order to, so typically when we design things, as engineers, we're going to put rock underneath this. I mean, this thing is a pool, water's gonna get there. So our goal is it needs to infiltrate. So what we do typically is we go in there, we dig down approximately to the level, we take this big pipe and we push it into the ground and we fill it with water and we time it to see how long it goes. And we do that test several times in several locations. That way we know the water is going to infiltrate. If we don't do that, you risk hitting a section of clay, a pocket of water, and then your site just fills up with water. So under that thing, now, if a contractor was there and he did that, maybe he just kicks some soil into it and doesn't say anything and all the issue goes away.
$60,000 later.
Yeah, so, but the other thing about it though is even if that was the case, if we had decided not to say anything for any reason, if my investigator, you know, thought that it wasn't that big a deal, if you guys started development and something happened then, at that point, 100% mandatory, nothing you can do about it, and you have to do everything he says right up to the limit.
And so there's no guarantee that we can build exactly what we want to after that. Right.
Yeah, well, no. So at that point, you would already be under development. If you came in there and then the DEC would say, okay, this is your project, you have to do this remediation in order to get this project. That, like, you would get whatever you're trying to build in the end, you would just have to do whatever remediation is required to meet that.
But then at that time, there wouldn't be any money left. I mean,
Right.
Well, that's
$10 million that we would give them would be spent on this.
And
I
so
mean, it
that's
gets to a point that if you need paradise, put up a parking lot.
And your $1.3 million parking fee, $5. And you have to pay for it.
So that's kind of where there's a pretty big catch-22 in a lot of this stuff. I don't think that there's a situation where you make a decision that has no risk. I think there are pathways you can take to minimize your risk. I think that I've worked with our state contact on other DRI projects before, and they are all very sympathetic to communities like us that have gotten these large sums of money to do various number of projects. And then 5, 6 years later, by the time you get there, there's a million problems that you can't quite cover with the money and the funding doesn't go as far. I mean, Marvin Park, I mean, we got pretty lucky with the parking lots, but they're not exactly particularly complex projects. Marvin Park, not so much.
So decisions we need to make are, do we want to continue with our park? Because if we want to ask the state to move the money to the other projects, that's a whole process, like a formal process that we need to start.
It would be a process regardless. Right. So if you decide to move ahead with the art park, you have to plan for that remediation. Like we have to start doing the testing, we have to start developing a remediation plan. Otherwise, it will never get to the construction phase.
Do we want to?
James, did you say there was a time limit on the contractors?
Yeah,
bids?
so the contractors, when we issued the bid requirements, we told them that they essentially had to the end of the year to build this. So in addition, they only have to hold their number when they bid for a limited amount of time.
What's that time?
45 days.
From when?
From the date that they bid.
Which was?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we got about 3 weeks.
Well, so here's
before we decide.
Yeah.
Not really. So here's the other thing is you're running out of construction season. So if you wait to the absolute limits too, the other thing is your plumber and your electrician, they're well past their 45-day limit. And they're just holding their number in good faith, understanding that you still needed a general contractor.
Just out of curiosity, I'm not saying change plans or anything, but would it be cheaper to turn it into a parking lot?
Yeah.
I would have to look at zoning and everything else.
You have to think, how many cars can you actually fit there? I mean, I can go home and ask my son, he plays Minecraft all day, that's algebra and stuff, and he can figure out how many tiles his floor would need just by looking at it. And I can tell him, look at that, and tell me how many cars will fit there. He'll give me the
I mean, so what I'll tell you is a parking lot isn't going to meet the DRI objectives. They're not going to let you just dump whatever into that. Funding, just money-wise, like if just ignoring everything else, I mean, yeah, obviously putting in just a bunch of parking spots will be significantly cheaper.
But if they do whatever they need to bring it up to whatever level that area needs to build whatever
I would
on.
say, for example, if you were going to build a parking lot, that's probably already within the limits.
That sounds cheap to me.
That does sound cheap. However, the grant money was awarded with the intent of doing a transformative art park project.
You can draw squiggly lines. It'll look like art from the air.
There you go.
Well, it sounds like we're waiting on the state to tell us what to do.
It's a
Well,
conundrum.
we have to request, so we have to tell the state what we want to do as far as, we want to move that art park money to other projects. We want to continue down the art park road with more testing. That's my question.
All I hear is cha-ching,
Yeah, money bit.
cha-ching.
So guys, this is a bit of so guys, this is a bit of a question, but you know, we've spent the last 4 years and $10 million to get like 4 parking lots and a art park that we can't do. It's like, how do you waste $10 million? Try to build something in New York State.
Well, we didn't get 10 million.
No, we got 4 million.
Village got 4 million.
We have a card.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right.
I mean, I would argue that either one of the projects, even though you're not getting both of them, are pretty transformative. Like, I mean, you're going to have a number of downtown parking. At the end of this, when you're done, you're either going to have a number of downtown parking, 2 waterfront properties that have been rehabilitated, a boat launch that has been rehabilitated, and you're going to either have this very nice new art park that people obviously want. It's going to be a cultural hub. It's going to give something in the area that is not offered anywhere else. Or you can have upgrades to Marvin Park, which include your brand new skate park, your new bathhouse, and a couple upgrades to your tennis
what's scaring me though is that somebody's gonna do some digging in Marvin Park underneath the old basketball court, and gonna find some fossil fuels there or something over there, and they can't dig here because there's some
So what I'll
Indian
say,
grave site that used to be there.
This town's been here a long time.
so what I'll say is there's, absolutely 100% no way to predict or control any of that.
Exactly.
So there's no reason to bring it into the equation as something that's gonna weigh. It's like trying to accommodate for a comet hitting during construction. I mean, sure, there's a percentage that it can happen.
I mean, there's a big pit in the middle of town. It's been that way for some kind of reason.
Unofficially, not from Hunt, but from James Peckham, the person who's seen this stuff. It seems odd that you guys were given a section of land that seems so almost undevelopable.
And how long can they come back on you, knowing what the test results are?
I'm not sure what you mean.
How long can the DEC take to make the village clean that property up?
If they haven't said anything, then, I guess that's more of a legal question. But I would say if they haven't said anything within 30 days or so, they have a hard time making a case that it's extremely hazardous and you guys immediately have to do anything.
Right.
You guys have a very strong case that if that's the case, if this material is hazardous or whatever to the public, it's been there for how many years? And we have no serious health risks, no serious issues.
Well, that's been used for anything.
Well, and it would remain that way. And so that would be the ultimate. The other way is, going down that route of remediating the soil and making it, because at that point, you don't know if someone's gonna plant a tree, if someone's gonna dig a sand pit there, we're gonna put a new foundation in for a new sculpture, whatever you're gonna do, there's a chance that people aren't gonna come in contact with that soil.
Those canaries in the cage and set them around.
I don't think that's a proof statement.
They don't do that anymore.
We discussed doing the winter bid for the Marvin Park as an option, and we were trending towards it when we were speaking about this last, because we would be able to have all the other numbers come in for all the rest of the projects, know how much money everything was gonna cost. That way, if the bid came in again, we would really have, that would be the final stage of those numbers, where we would have to decide. And then if we, saying that if the art park got cut, putting it into Marvin, the pickleball courts aren't even included in that bid. Yeah, they were included as an alternate.
Yeah, because we wanted to make, so the big change with the pickleball courts as far as price wise was the local input that they would be accepting to an asphalt surface as opposed to the traditional, tennis high-end athletic surface, which is usually what's put in when you do a brand new pickleball court. So that made it so that when that came in, it was only $15,000. I would see a hard time saying no to that. I mean, your community has said that they wanted it, they prefer asphalt, that is not something I would have designed as an engineer. But
I heard a lot of people come in and say very much that they wanted pickleball courts and stuff, and I didn't hear from people about the other things, people were demanding or commenting or wanting the skateboard park. And people do comment that they want a bathroom, but they maybe don't want a $600,000 or $700,000.
So,
bathroom.
So a few things. If you decided to rebid this, 100% you have to cut something on the market part. You can't rebid this and hope to get it $1 million cheaper. It's not going to happen. Construction prices are not going down. The skate park obviously would be one of the things that would be cut right off the top. That seems the easiest thing. The bathroom is as minimalistic as it can be already. You're not going to make that any cheaper without.
Just putting in a trough.
Yeah, well, without meeting codes, you're not gonna be able to do it without. They did not give you guys any balance lists there, short of a couple door. So I mean, it would definitely be that. But keep in mind, the skate park, even if you did, Martin Park and you cut the skate park and everything off of that, it still doesn't cover the $800,000 deficit that you have. So the numbers that we got from the contractor, I submitted those to you guys previously, and we dropped it down, and I think it was 650,000 for the skate park.
There were things that got cut to slim it down to include the skate park and the two playground equipment pieces and stuff like that. What if the skateboard park was removed and then we put in more of a walking and running trail signage? That doesn't cost as much money. And
well, what I'm saying is that right now, with Martin Park the way it was bid, even if you got numbers a little bit better next time, and it didn't have the skate park in it at all, no additions, just cut that off right on top, you would still be short. Like you'd still be over budget. So it's something that we have to keep in mind. So what we would have to do is essentially, you'd have to lock the skate park off completely, and then you'd have to add a couple alternates to be able to use them, such as not restoring the entrance, not adding the new sign that you guys want to put in there, not doing the playground, not doing the tennis courts. One of those items needs to be, possibly two of them needs to be an alternate that you guys can.
what about using the pool bathrooms? Investing more right there and putting new doorways accessible, to the outside, or some sort of.
Yeah, I mean that's really a board question as far as that kind of stuff. The danger with that, so there's a couple dangers with that, including the rebate idea. The biggest danger is that if you don't get good bids, or even if you do get good bids, you're still trying to build everything at this point next summer. So all of it. It all has to be done, or else you lose the money. I mean, we could probably go for an extension, that'll help it. But if we show that we haven't really built anything in 3 years really since we started this, it becomes really hard to make an argument. I mean, luckily the parking lots at least will be done, the infrastructure will be done, Southside lighting will be done, all of that kind of little stuff packaged into one will be completed. Doesn't really hit that keyword that they keep on focusing on as transformative. But yeah, I mean, a lot of options. I agree 100%. And I've talked with a lot of people over this. Trust me, I'm as frustrated with you as my estimates being, pretty close to what we had budgeted and coming up so far up. And the truth is, the market's just almost impossible to predict right now. It's not just us. All across our firm, projects are coming in, well over budget.
Or I don't see how you could use the bathrooms at the swimming pool area for, out, block off the entrance and exit into the pool and have an outside exit. Then you're gonna have people messing up the showers.
Yeah.
And when you go open the pool the next year, you don't have the showers that are needed.
We don't have to go through.
But every time I hear the word skate park and cut in the same sentence, it kind of feels like a knife being twisted into my heart. Because if there's anything we need to come away from with that Marvin Park project, it's something for our youth to do. Our youth needs that skate park. I will fight tooth and nail to keep that. That's personal. We need.
I'm trying to present you guys with as much information as I can, and trust me, I know on a personal level as well, how difficult it can be with all the different aspects. I mean, you guys have a very wide, a variety of community here that you're trying to serve everyone as best you can. Yeah.
Well, they have enough money to do it all. Yeah. We can't do the art part. Not that we don't want to do it, but can't make anything.
Parking lot.
I would prefer to cut the Marvin Park because of the total cost and what the return on investment would be, or what we get out of it doesn't make sense. And then the art park, you can see the value of what it can bring in for people to visit and play. And then we would also have more money to finish the rest of the projects that we wanted to, with the roof for the fire
Or the Marvin Park is busy all the time, especially in the summer when that pool's open. The kids are over there, I mean, and they're using that skate park year round. I had, I was, at one point in time, we had tried to do a cornhole tournament over near the skate park. This was just in the fall time. There was half a dozen cars there all the time. Parents bringing their kids over to use that skate park.
What little skate park it is. That's why I'm saying that we come away with a updated skate park, it'll be a draw. It would be a draw.
I would like to see the art saved from the art park and put in our other parks, like Marvin Park or along the riverfront.
Yeah, so that, I will say that is one thing I intentionally tried to avoid putting in any sort of pot. Is like we, as a group, you guys decided 140,000, other things, you put a premium on that art when you did it. I really think you should keep at minimum that $140,000. You know, you formed an art committee to start doing RFPs. I'd really love to see that, you know, continue to go forward, even if it's in different spaces.
Maybe in Draper Park or along the Riverwalk or something in Marvin Park.
Ultimately, it'd be up to your guys' discretion on where you wanted to do that. And I would recommend that you take input from your art committee. Obviously, they'd have to redress their direction for that.
Because it'll cost us more money to develop on that area, the pit,
That's what I'm worried about.
you know? And there's still no guarantee what level can be built on, or if there's gonna be any money left building our park on it. I say let's go the cheap route. People will be happy to have some more parking spaces. Right there in the dead part of town.
Well, we probably can't do parking lot with BRI money. But
No.
we could
Yeah,
put a parking
well,
lot
we
in
can
there.
put one on our own.
Right.
I mean, it's gonna be half dug up anyway, because of
I don't see any profit in spending a couple $100,000
I wish we could get
testing
into a
there
DeLorean
and
and go
the
back
state say you can't do it.
to the beginning.
I have a suggestion for the pit, and maybe James could weigh in on this, if it's feasible or not. I was up to the Cutler Gardens this weekend. Beautiful botanical gardens. Cornell takes care of the whole thing. They do the planting, brick walks through the whole thing. Beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. Is that something that we possibly could turn that into?
Are there plants you can plant and fuel and grow?
So that would be part of a remediation plan, like going through, figuring out the extent of the area and then developing, like instead of digging, so the kind of sample I gave was like, okay, just dig down a foot, lay down a layer, put down some between soil, dig down 4 feet, completely replace that, and then you can do whatever you want. Trying to come up with a planting system that would, you know, clean that soil.
Well, we let Cornell take care of that. Yeah, we wouldn't do it.
You
That's
could
what
do
got
that.
us into this mess in the
You could
first
do that
place.
with
Cornell
the
didn't
DRI.
have
National Gardeners take care of it.
Yeah.
Just like,
I mean, that is, that would be outside the purview of the current funding, I'd say, so.
what an idea for the future. Yeah, I mean, same as,
Dave,
some gravel. If we were to donate the land to Cornell, and say, develop it, make a
Dave.
nice botanical garden.
Don't forget it was Cornell who did the first test. And finally, maybe we got Binghamton University. Would have been cheaper.
Master gardeners you're talking about. There's Broome County Master Gardeners and there's Tyler County Master Gardeners. Actually, there's all the county master gardeners that are part of Cornell Cooperative Extension. So what you're talking about at Owego, that's Broome County, Tioga
That's
County.
Broome County.
It's Broome County. This is Tioga County.
This is Tioga County. Yeah.
Tioga County Master Gardeners don't have enough master gardeners to even maintain 56 Main Street.
Right.
Okay, they took out the beautiful butterfly garden because people didn't like milkweed in that garden. Okay, that's what happened at 56 Main Street. I'm part of the Tioga County Master Gardeners, so I happen to have inside information and how this went down. And I'm not happy about how that went. It took 7 years to build that beautiful, beautiful butterfly garden. And somebody complained about the milkweed, and so we had to dig it all up and move it around so that it's over in front of, the building, 56 Main Street, not, I'm sorry, Academy, right, or whatever. So not Main Street, or the flag. So the flagpole's now empty, and there's grass there. And that made everyone happy, I guess. So there's a lot of things that happen that are historic or whatever, but there's a lot of things that are very angering to the population of master gardeners who, every year we train new master gardeners. They get their training, there's supposed to be 40 hours of training, then 40 hours of volunteer work. They disappear, right? And then they don't do anything after that. And the team of gardeners that come in there to maintain it is depleted to, people that can't do it anymore. They retire or they're old or whatever. I have gray hair, but I can still do it. But this stuff with the parking lot and how our government spends our money is disappointing. Let's put it that way. I pay a lot of taxes in New York State, and I go to all of the town of Owego meetings too, and I watch how the highway department spends my money, and I don't get to enjoy all that nice equipment that they got over there in the new building on 434. I asked them if I could drive it, they didn't let me. So, and they're out there in the first days squeegeeing the floor because it wasn't installed properly. So this is how our government operates. And, it's not your guys' fault, obviously, because you didn't do it. Somebody put it in and somebody didn't do it properly. And so, I talking about the other people in this room, that we pay a lot of taxes. And how the money is spent is less than ideal. And so, $10 million disappeared. Oh, sorry, we only get 4 of it. And $4 million is going to disappear in soil testing. Yeah, okay. That's great. Just great.
State mandated, that's the thing.
I know, so let's go after the state then.
Can we
Let's
get back
call
to public
Owego and
comment?
get her to do something for this area.
Mayor?
All right, so moving on, James, you
Yeah.
need some decision.
Yeah, I need some. I mean, you've got, two real major decisions to do. One is whether or not to accept the bids for Marble Park, and the second one is, if you do accept the bids, if you're gonna transfer money to our park from other parts of the project, and then if you decline it, if you're going to transfer that money from somewhere else, or if you're gonna rebid it. So it's kind of like a decision tree here.
Approval from Julie, or even just sort of, question approval about if we can even transfer that money.
So I can give you my professional opinion on the likelihood of the course of events, based on my experience with Julie, which has been almost 7 or 8 years now working in DRI related projects, and the soil testing side, what both the indicator that I got from the DEC guy that I spoke to, and or to your guys' local testing sampling guy. And so those indications are that the guys at the state, they want to see these projects done. They're unlikely to put up hurdles that are gonna cause you to not be able to do something. So they're very likely to be able to let you move this money pretty much, and I say this lightly, wherever you want. I mean, they're gonna have some say, but they want to see a transformative project done. And then as far as the testing, the DEC guy seems very uninvested in your guys' thing right now. I'd like to let sleepy dogs lie. From what I hear, this guy is, once he does get invested, he tends to be a little bit like a pit bull. He gets his teeth sunk in. But our newly acquired environmental guys say what I've already regurgitated to you a little bit, is that you guys haven't had any health issues from the site so far. And if you don't develop it, there's no reason to show that increased hazard to the rest of the civilians. So I'd say your best bet to get it done with as least hurdles would go on that. And the good thing is, I mean, at that point, it's a sure thing. I mean, Market Park, you have all the numbers. You don't have to risk it coming in higher. You don't have to risk, contractors backing out all of a sudden, not being able to find artists that aren't going to be installed or whatever. You just get to start construction, and by winter, come next spring, you guys are opening, the brand new park.
You know what I'm afraid of? I'm afraid of the type of world we live in. If that scenario goes through and they don't really become a pit bull with the pit, whatever, and we're able to build an art park, you're gonna have somebody that's gonna come out of the woodwork and find out that this occurred and just was swept under the rug.
Well,
Start coughing,
so what I'm
start
saying,
developing a rash,
That would mean.
and the next thing you know, that park will be named after me. I'll be the one coughing. That's how the way the world is. You sit around and think of get quits.
In that scenario, we would leave it as it is. We wouldn't touch it.
Yeah.
Because if we touch it, that's when we get the pitfall coming.
Yeah, but it's already a known factor that's been contaminated
So-
with something.
but you guys aren't sweeping it under the rug.
Well,
First of all,
I'm just saying someone is gonna say that.
at that
It's the
point,
world we live in.
I don't disagree with you. I would say at that point, I mean, and I'm getting legal.
I just hate to be one of the guys holding the broom.
But I mean, the people who are supposed to make this call, we've done our due diligence, we've done our testing, we've given them the results. We've done everything we can short of developing a remediation plan, which there's no point in doing if we're not gonna do.
I'm just cursed with that
No, I get you.
looking at all angles and things.
Our safest option there is just leave it alone.
So, I mean, and you're right, and that's why I tried to be clear, there's a little bit of risk regardless of this decision that's made, including not making a decision.
Part of that remediation plan could be as simple as removing a section of soil and putting it back with good soil.
Yep.
Or putting an underground mitigation system in, exhaust fans.
It's probably just gonna be some sort of soil removal. I don't think you need to go at that. The problem is the extent of the soil removal. If you have to dig up the 3 pits that we said, I mean, 50 grand, 75 grand. I mean, it's a lot of money, but in the grand scheme of things.
The more you gotta dig up, the more it costs, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they come with some contractor said, we gotta remove that. How would we know?
The contractor doesn't get to say, the EC does.
Well, how would we know?
You would know because I would protect your interests as your engineer, examining the results.
Well, thank you for that.
I got you covered.
That's the questions you gotta ask.
I agree.
It's the world we
I
live
think
in.
they're good questions.
You come into that, that's the world.
So I guess what do we want to do?
Well, I would propose we talk with Julie Sweet. Just tell her that we want to,
Well, we've done that. She won't give us any affirmative actions until we say, we want to do this.
that's
Is
what I'm
approved.
saying, I would propose that we transfer the funds, as needed to Marvin Park, and forego the art park, because it's potentially hundreds of thousands wasted on soil before we can do anything there at the art park.
What is the lotto up to now? It's like over $1 billion, something, nobody won, right?
Right, well, I'll go
We
back.
started buying tickets for ourselves.
We allow less than.
Yeah, but we probably get just 1 million of that.
Well,
That's how the world is.
take us 10 years to get. Is that a motion, Fran?
Yes, I made a motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Do you have any more discussion about that? I think we've talked about it for a long time.
What is your motion again?
That we transfer the funds, from the art park to Marvin Park so that we complete the project as it's been bid. and, forego the art park on North Avenue.
I don't get my giant chair.
And sell the property so you're no longer liable for it.
Fran, in that motion, can you add something that's 140,000 set aside for park?
Okay, yeah, the
Will still be
140
set
that we
aside?
already
Yeah.
designated for our work would be set aside to use elsewhere,
Just to get that bigger bathroom?
not in one of our other parks.
Bigger bathroom and garden?
The roof on the fire station?
Giant chair?
Any more discussion about that? This is to formally ask the state to do that. Obviously, they have to say their budget's not ours.
Yeah, we had to show something.
We'll vote on that. Fran?
Yes.
Char?
Yes.
Laura?
No.
Dave? Ed?
Ed, are you there?
Want to call it?
Hey, I'm sorry, I was muted.
What's your vote?
Did you
Hear all of that?
Yes. Yes.
Same as early Fords. This is
So with that, I'll inform Julie of our intention to move ahead and formally ask her to get us approval to do what we want to do, so we don't have to wait any longer.
So the next question is, do we want to accept the bids for Marvin Park? Get that process rolling. With the caveat that there is a risk there that if the state says, no, we can't do this.
So we, as a small notation on that, we can, I have a personal relationship with the contractor that happened to win it. And by personal, I mean, we've done another project before and we don't hate each other. I think if I told him, your guys, that you want to move ahead with it and that you were getting approval, he'd be willing to hold out a little bit more and might even be willing to start doing a little bit of work at this. You know, we're all kind of hedging our bets to get the best results here, putting myself a little bit on the line with that. But I think if everyone's on the same page, it would be in the best interest.
It's a hard decision because a lot of us, our hearts were in that art park. And a lot of us, our hearts are in that Marvin Park project. And it's really hard to choose. It's like choosing between a child. Children.
So other option, just to lay out all the options, the other option is to tell them no and rebid it this winter for next construction season.
Gotta mean more money, more costs.
And delayed the project. That's the least of our worries. Point of order. Voting on Marvin Park contract's not on the agenda. I don't think if you're going to vote on it, it's not on the agenda. You can. Our lawyer would tell us we're not supposed to. It's not illegal.
Well, do you think Julie will be able to get back to us in 2 weeks?
Yeah, I think if I grilled her enough.
Probably.
So here's the thing, I need something to convince the contractor not to pull the bid. So even if you guys decide to do, like, oh, as long as Julie's on board, like even if you guys wanted to do something like that, we're gonna request that we wait for approval, and we'll share that we want to move ahead, but we can't formally accept the bid until, like, that's fine. But I guess, as a middleman, I need something to be able to keep the contractor on the hook and not have to run away from us.
So maybe we'd make a motion like that says that we.
Yeah, upon the agreement of the
Make
state.
a motion, huh? Okay, please.
Yeah, what you said.
So our next meeting,
Robert's Rules and Orders was written just down here on front.
our next meeting is August 7th. So we can make a motion that we would like to.
I wouldn't like to put a date on it, because if Julie gets back to us tomorrow, you guys could hold an
Well, we could hold a
emergency
meeting.
meeting, correct, just to vote on the one item.
So we'd like to move ahead with Marvin Park contingent on approval from New York State for funding within, and make a decision, officially accept the bids or deny them within 3 weeks. By August 7th. At the latest. 7 days. The state's decision. Well, we don't want to say that because it takes 6 years to decide. We'll say by August, we'll make a decision to accept or deny by August 7th.
Yeah,
One way or
I
the
think
other.
that's fine.
Okay, I'll second that.
I don't know what you're gonna really put for that. Okay. So that's the motion. Is to
Thank you
decide
for your efforts.
to get approval from the state and decide by August 7th at the latest. So the contractor has some form of a date, so he knows we're not just pushing them off till 6 years from now. Okay, we'll vote on that. Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
In the meantime, let's buy those Powerball tickets.
Yeah, that's powerful.
So something you guys should consider in the meantime, while we're trying to get a hold of Julie, is that with those transfers, you do have approximately $250,000 of surplus. That is money you don't necessarily have to decide on what you want to do. You can wait till some of the other projects come in. The state will likely want to hear something about it, so if you guys had some recommendations, even if you said we're gonna keep it in reserve for these projects in case whatever comes in. The big project obviously being the firehouse with the alternate on that. So just.
That'd be my personal recommendation.
Since I'm piling stuff on your guys' plate anyway.
Just to keep it, because we got all the bids coming in.
Yeah,
Like Marvin Park, they're all gonna come in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I want you guys to, I just want to put it on your radar is all, so you guys will have time to discuss it and go from there.
So you wanna give a little update on the other projects?
Sure.
Oh, you need approval on the parking lot?
We don't need a hard approval. I'd like to outline it for you and let you know, because I think it's important, but so, the firehouse was bid today, so we had the advertisement out, we published all the documents, officially out for people to look at and put bids in. The parking lots are underway, so, our contractor, wisely decided to start with our most challenging parking lot, the Lake Street lot. We identified a number of early change orders quick. So when they are digging up Core Street lot, 2 of the catch basins were not made correctly. They use cinder blocks, which is not legal by any code that I'm familiar with. So those have to be really replaced. They're falling apart, crumbling inside of it. So those are a couple of changes. With the limited documentation, the impression that had been given to Hunt engineers was that the storm laterals from the roofs on Lake Street were connected to the sewer main, and thus, as part of this project, we had to disconnect them for code, and we drain them to their own storm system. Those lines are connected to laterals. So, just for terminology, so the lateral is essentially the sewer line that connects from the main to each one of the houses. So instead of the storm line being connected directly to the main, they're connected to the sewer line. So replacing the main doesn't separate those like we had intended. So the contractor has to dig up a little bit more and replace that. A little bit of good news is the alleyway in between a number of the buildings had already been replaced with a larger PVC pipe, and thus none of that needed to be done. So they owe us a credit for that amount that is still being determined. So with that being said, essentially the changes that you're looking at are, I've set you guys the specific numbers, so I'll abbreviate here, but 27,500 for your new laterals, 10,500 for the Park Street ice hole that was identified to be extremely corroded at the base. The catch basin and the dry well replacements at 5,500 and 5,200 respectively. And a little bit of piping in between the dry wells is 7,800. And then the Fourth Street light needed to be replaced as well, which wasn't originally identified, which is approximately $1,500. So total, the change for that is $58,000 in change orders. The field change allowance that we originally had was $35,000. So that leaves a remaining balance of $23,000. And the projects originally came in under budget, so you still have $23,000 remaining from that. So currently, everything is a wash. And then what will also happen though is that you guys will get a credit for that work that wasn't completed, which should be substantial. My estimate is between 20 and 25,000. So you'll be back up to about what we started with, minus 30%. And then they will, since you guys completed the cleaning of the high lot dry wells, there will also be a credit for those lots. So as soon as I insisted that the contractor get us a credit before we submit the change order, that way at no point can they say that the changes were approved, but the credit was not agreed upon. It gives them more power. So I'm insisting that they give us that number, and then I'll submit you guys a formal change order that you guys hopefully will approve at your next order. All of the changes that I have agreed to for the contractor's sake of this really needed to be done, with the exception of the light pole and the light.
We started like 2 weeks ago.
Be put aside, but they are eyesores on your brand new projects. I think it's money wisely spent. So I'll continue to balance the projects. I know it can be a bit challenging to see that many change orders in such a small amount of time on relatively simple projects. But the good news is that one is your guys' big kind of pitfall. That storm line, that sewer line, there's almost no information based on that other than the fact that the building owners were having sewer issues. I mean, the rest of them are more or less repaving parking lots.
Could this have been like scoped before it was started? To see if there was any issues? Could they have scoped those lines?
To some extent, we did scope a good chunk of them, but everything costs money. So, I mean, having a guy out there for so Hunt, as part of their construction, in order to find those laterals, we sent somebody into those properties and scoped them out, and that's how we found the laterals where they are. But generally, we rely on survey and previous documentation on where that type of stuff is.
As-built.
Yeah, and it wasn't really that much documentation, which is largely why it needed to be replaced also.
So James, here's another rhetorical question for you, but how did we not assume that the storm drains and the sewer ran together. I'm not an engineer, and I knew that.
How did we not assume that? We did assume that they did ran together. We assumed the connections were to the main and not to the individual laterals,
Okay.
which is more standard.
So the change is because they had to dig up more pipes.
Yeah. And so arguably, you guys could make the case to the landowners that you're not responsible for the laterals. Technically, the landowners own everything from the edge of the lateral to the building. As good neighbors, that seems like a bad precedence to track down.
Yeah, we've been debating that for years with those landowners.
I mean, the good thing is after that, it's all done now. Those laterals will all be disconnected and be up to code. The storm will be completely connected and they should have no issues.
Yeah, because that's all part of this. When they take the, once we replace it, they take the line, they take it.
And I mean, just to clarify your information a little bit further, Ed, I mean, we not only had contact with, your guys' sewer district previously, the public works department, I mean, we tracked down every bit of information we could on this and did, survey through 2 different firms with this, tracked down all the previous landowner maps and deeds. We helped with all of the easements, in which case all the landowners were reviewing and had an opportunity to provide his comment on the drawings. I mean, some things you just don't find until you dig it up.
Old lines are always fun.
I think that's happening all over town with the different properties that it has that type of work being done. They're realizing that the drainage is going into the sewer instead of the other way around because they changed something. So when you have that work done, you can't just put it back the way it was. You gotta get all the stuff.
Yeah,
Because it happened to me.
And that's exactly what happened. Like if you guys weren't replacing the storm line, you would have never had to do any of that. But as always, one thing
We did get a $309,000 grant from the Army Corps of Engineers, and they are going to be doing an analysis of our stormwater systems and includes all these all the drains and where everything flows in a storm, underpass, coming down the hills, all everything, right? So there's
without that information, you're just piecemeal things.
So one section is the stormwater management from the storm, and another section is when the waters rise after, and so it's, we're going to have answers, about what we have, and then the solutions and about like how we can attack it.
So you guys were awarded a grant. Is the Army, are they doing it for you or are they receiving money?
They're doing it.
Okay.
And they give us extra money to like let that pay for their experts to do the work because we don't have the people to do the work here, right? So
congratulations, such a big thing for the city. From what I've seen through that storm, like it's a nightmare. Nothing leads to anything, it all just goes up in water.
The other half of that is the analysis of all our structures and properties that are in the floodplain. We would know where things can be built, and we have a great analysis of where the water flows, what can be built where from it, and suggestions from that for the building, for best practices and plans too.
That's really invaluable information.
This all sounds good on paper, but common sense says that when water levels out, it levels out. If it goes above the level, it's going to flood. So if the Susquehanna River goes above a certain level, town's going to flood. If it's down a certain level and the water runoff from mountains, whatever, goes into the Susquehanna the way it's supposed to, that's going to rise. Town's going to flood. There's a level where it levels off. That's it. If it goes above that,
right now, there's a good chunk of the village that doesn't have any storm drainage, meaning when all the water goes in, it just fills up. It doesn't actually drain.
Then it floods.
So what you tend to flood on smaller storms that you wouldn't normally flood on.
Unless somewhere down the line you dig a deeper hole where the water can go.
You're right, you can't change it where if the Susquehanna floods, I mean, the village can flood.
Yeah, and the Susquehanna is gonna rise,
But
whether it floods because of somewhere down or upstream, and the runoff from here, it levels off.
yeah, but there's a level of hydraulic study that can be done to say, 2 years, you guys can handle everything up to a 50-year storm, but if you get a 100-year storm.
We had a 100-year storm, the 1,000-year storm, and a 500-year storm within 6 years.
Yeah, that's why they changed the names. They call them rain frequency.
Big storms.
Big storms.
Big store.
Yeah, they have the percentages now, but no one knows what those are.
You should start giving them hurricane names. We get to see really fast.
As always, I'm at your guys' disposal for any random engineering questions or anything. But if all of our DRI business is concluded.
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent.
Thanks again, James.
Thank you, guys.
Go back to the department.
Sure.
For last month, pulled in over 550,000 gallons of septage for a little over $28,000 of revenue for us to keep going. The Speedies renewal has been accepted. I've just notified that they may be coming back to want to do some inspections and further testing. Sounds like there's going to be some changes in the works for what we're permitted for. Purchased a whole bunch of risers for animals with milling and paving goes on, so we can get some of those bumps or dips taken care of. Been going through catch basins, Delphine Street, Charlotte Street, Main Street, a little bit, Adeline. We'll be hitting Academy here soon. Biosolids management. We have sent out or had people take about 83.1 cubic yards for customers. So many of you guys want some of our solids, you can just come over to us. I know one person already does. We produce about 104 cubic yards. So we're getting it out just about as quick as we're making it. The Court Street parking lot project, our part is pretty much done. Had a little stutters in there because lines were not where they were supposed to be ages ago. They did do an infield redesign because they did realize that the storm or the sewer from one manhole went sloped the opposite direction than it should have.
5 inches.
5 inches, yeah. So they did an infield redesign to kind of follow the old line and then cut to another manhole that's closer to Court Street. That way they could get the pitch they wanted, and hopefully any of the flow coming from the other direction, that kind of doesn't feed back and cause future problems. They also added in some cleanouts. We have some good access, hopefully with our newer, smaller back conduits get in there for any problems. That's about it.
Anybody have anything?
If people wanna come get solids, should they call you first or come or what's the?
Business hours, 7 to 3:30, they can come in, just come to our main office and hopefully someone's there. Let us know and we can give them a hand.
I will warn you, Laura, don't come the day they make it.
Yeah.
Wowzer.
And did you say to bring a truck or bring buckets or?
You can bring 5-gallon buckets like Kevin does. There's people bring dump trucks in.
If you want it at your place, just call me.
This village, is supporting the village.
They truck it around.
Why don't you fill in the pit with it?
That's a good place to go.
Then we could plant it. I smell something. But at least they only dug down a foot before that.
Yes. The tunnel, I wanted to ask them to include that because it's access, cleaning our water and having it, water for the village, that they can work with us on some sort of way to repair money to repair the tunnel before it becomes an interstate. Yeah, so we're looking for, do you have any, at one point in time, Jeff Souls, I think, put in a grant a long time ago, and then it didn't get accepted because they said the state wouldn't give money to us because we didn't own it, but then the state owned it.
Yeah, I have no idea. They still have that. I'm sure they do.
But yeah, we can get occasional letters just to say, yeah, how it went, and then maybe the engineers can talk to the state about, fixing the problem of access, and how but the engineers are really good at
But the state's not, right? That's your problem, is the state.
yeah.
Could they get some grant to build a bridge across the river for us? That would be so much easier.
Yeah. So I don't know, but just.
Trying to bridge across the highway. It might be easier to go across the river, you're right.
It would be.
Yeah, because, it goes right over to River Street.
But they won't do one across the highway.
Basically nothing
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
We just have to build up our river bank a little bit.
Yeah, that might be a bad idea.
Probably a cheaper bill.
That would be.
Try to include it, not let it go.
But to go with something you mentioned earlier with the Army Corps of Engineers, Hunt Engineering is also working on a stormwater abatement project, which they were gonna talk to you about at some point. I don't know if Tim Steve kind of told you, where they had a whole project of actually going through sections of the village and removing the storm sewers from the sewers and trying to either do storm drainage to the river or create drainage pits within the village. I told Tim to talk to them to see if they can kind of coordinate their projects in any way.
Yeah.
But that might help sort storm problems.
Yeah, it's good to have it, anything that's done, any work that's been done. All that stuff is the first step.
Sounds like good stuff. Anybody else have anything for sewer? Bobby?
I'll keep mine short and sweet. We've done 60 EMS calls so far this month. It's summertime, we haven't really done much above and beyond other than run calls. 2 ambulances are in service. The last one we hope to be back Thursday. That was the conversation last Thursday. The mileages are as noted. And the only other thing is I didn't receive any questions in reference to the stuff I handed out. The mayor, or I'm sorry, not the mayor. The lawyer responded back to the question that was big during the presentation, and haven't really heard anything negative. So is that basically an okay to move forward with that stuff? Yeah, the low sap stuff.
Moving forward was.
Moving forward was to do more work. Yes, it's not really a boat today, it's just, I don't wanna spend a bunch of time working on it and then nobody wants to do it.
Probably more work.
Yeah, well, I really think that, we should, since New York State is encouraging this type of investment in our volunteers, and we have the money coming in, I really think we should go forward with it. You know, to encourage the volunteers to give, we'll give back to them.
So I'm gonna continue on my quest then.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I'm good.
Anybody have anything for EMS?
EMS?
All set. Thanks, Paul. Freddie?
We've just been doing the same thing over and over again. The pool has been open for almost a month now. We've been doing the drains, make sure the pool is open and all the chemicals are perfect for that day. It's hard when it's get a lot of people in it, which we've been having a couple hundred people in the pool last week. It's been packed. We had to do some repairs and some vandalism on the picnic tables in Marvin Park. Got them all back and repaired. And now we're doing catch basins on Church Street, Central Ave, Temple Street, ready to be paved also. So they're ready to go, and I got the word from Room Bituminous, roughly August, we will start Prospect Street paving, give or take. Crush your fingers. I know, I say crush your fingers, you never know. And Fulton, East Main and Fulton Street, we did some removals and replaced catch basins. Ongoing cemetery mowing with 4 guys, 4 days a week. And we have our 2 mowers, and then on Fridays I steal weed whacker guys, and we do the parks and all the fairgrounds and everything else. On that case, I dealt with Roy Schreiner this week with the Sheriff's Department, and said the DPW paid for the paint, and Roy Schreiner from the Sheriff's Department's guys painted the Page Street underpass and cleaned it up. Looks very good.
Great.
Yes, it does. It does.
It did look good online.
Yeah, it was good. Did a great job. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, that's pretty much it, what we've done.
I'd like to make a motion. I think Fred is in need of a new hire. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Well, just also Joey, the guy that this guy's replacing is leaving. Become a truck driver. It's not on him.
Yeah, I'm just bringing it up back. Court when
Tell me.
the person's
I
name
tell you everything.
is Mark Stone, from Nichols. I trust Fred's judgment. This person is very, very overqualified for this position, right? Well, not overqualified, but qualified enough. Very good.
Very good.
Very good to fill this position. It's being vacated. Would like for him to start next Monday, if it's possible. Is there a salary?
16.
There you go.
He's got to start at the bottom.
Yep. I've been here. The bottom of the way up.
There you go.
Even though the qualifications exceed. So I'd like to make that motion that gets filled ASAP.
What's the title?
That would be,
What's his title?
yeah,
He will be a fabricator and more. He can do everything, operate, fabricate. Hopefully the next contract, they make it into MEOs and classify them, is what I want to do.
That's what I was asking.
yeah. He worked at.
They don't have it in their contract yet. So hopefully the next contract, we set up for MEOs and they can work their way up through.
Fabricator?
Yeah.
Now, this is a replacement.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Thank you, sir.
Any discussion on that? Want to vote on that person? Is that his name? Is there a salary?
Yes.
16.
It was Mark Stone.
Oh, yes. Excuse me. Yes.
Charles,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Dave, anything else, Fred?
I just told Mike Howell, I said, thank you very much
For what?
for the pool. He comes in there, I see him does the pH balance and everything, he spends.
We do it every day, and it's all,
Yeah.
everything is specked out.
I've been down there most of the days, not as much as Sebby,
Through that.
but I've been down there.
We
often
spend,
with family.
we do a lot of time there. Yes, we do.
It's good enough to put babies in there, because my wife was down there with, babies in for, so.
It's just hard to regulate it when we have so many people in it.
Oh, yeah.
Outside
Yeah.
pool.
And it's hot, sunny.
Yep.
And I'm not stepping on leaves this year in the bottom of the pool, so that's great.
That's because our buddy wanted it open so soon.
And there you go, that's all I got to say about that.
Fire department?
Fire,
We're good.
I got fire.
I know we got something.
Yeah, Jim wasn't able to make it tonight, so, we have, the surplus list. Remember that? Did you guys get the list? Did you get the list? We approved it, okay, so he needs that list to be approved, otherwise it's going in the trash.
Yeah, no, that was approved.
Okay, so he just wanted to reiterate that. There's also a new member application. Did you get that? All right, he's gonna send that. It's for Christopher J. Warner of Glenmary Drive, Owego, for company number 4. It's an application, so when you get that application, he just wanted me to mention that.
Should we approve that?
If you like to, I mean, like I trust Fred's judgment, I also trust his judgment. I make that motion to accept that application, receive it. Those, okay, oh yeah, I'm going so fast.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
A new member for the fire
Number,
department?
number 4. Number
What,
4.
there's, it's Christopher J. Warner,
Christopher J. Warner,
and where are they from?
Glenmary Drive, Owego.
Any other questions or discussion on Chris? Vote. Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Ed?
Yes.
Those new garage doors that I fought so hard for us to get, should be here within a week or two. So, we'll keep up on that. I'm sure they're thankful for getting those done. Fire department will also be supporting the National Night Out with the OPD. So if you have any information on the OPD and National Night Out, the fire department is going to be supporting them with that.
Yep. Information on that is it's August 1st over at Marvin Park, 5 to 8. It's gonna be live music. I got roped into cooking somehow. Yeah. So there'll be food, music. I don't know what else.
All kinds of volunteer equipment there.
Yeah, touch a truck kind of stuff. Should be a fun time.
That's August 1st,
August 1st, which is a Tuesday.
like a full moon too.
Yeah, hopefully. I think you got hayride lined up. Should be a good time. No, not the bonfire, that's later.
October.
Yeah. No bonfire.
It's already hot enough around here.
He was trying to get state police to bring last year they brought their seatbelt simulator. Got in it, see what happened if you didn't wear a seatbelt. he was trying to get me to bring the rollover thing this time, but I don't know if he's successful or not.
Volunteer test numbers.
They usually bring something cool. And I think he's got at least a Guthrie helicopter coming in. I was trying to get him a Lockheed helicopter. I don't know if that's going anywhere.
Got one.
Yeah, he has spare flying floating around.
He's gonna have a dump tank too, right?
Yep. So you can dump the officers.
Well, one idea I haven't talked to him about is, you gotta have a squirt gun fight area.
I know they are gonna have K9 demonstrations.
Yeah.
With our police dogs. Should be fun.
Plant drugs on people?
Yeah.
Never know.
You ready?
Won't find out, no.
No, I don't know. Last year they did an object, I think, right? They took something and put it somewhere, Maggie went and found it.
They should take her to the White House.
Yeah, right. That's all I have from the police, though. He called me earlier, I was on a meeting. In the clerk's office?
What am I doing this office specialist replacement?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, let's do that one. Charles should.
Yeah. I'd like to make the motion to hire Nikki Arroyo for the position of Office Specialist 2, and that's to replace Cindy in the future.
And this would be provisional.
Provisional.
Which one was that, Charles?
You missed that one. You left.
Right.
It was, yeah,
Oh, it was the last one?
the last one. Yes.
Okay, Susan's name.
Nikki, Nikki, Arroyo, Arroyo. She has a middle name, Dial, but it's spelled weird. Like not like the soap, what is it? Diehl. Middle name.
Oh, I remember her.
You know her?
The girls were, do we need?
Yes, totally.
We need all the other info, already, salary.
Oh, I don't have that written down, it's not here, is it? No, do you have that information, Charlie?
I thought it was
40,000.
Originally, probationary period. Trying to think of all the things.
How long is the probationary period?
Right. It can be, Nate can help us here, it can be anywhere from really short to a year.
And the start date would be anytime after this announcement, 2 weeks from now.
But when is the retirement?
It was supposed to be September.
Right, Cindy will stick around with it.
Bounce back a couple months. So it's
Okay, well, I would say the provisional should be at least up until the time.
Yeah, there's 3
Well, the provisional thing is she has to take the civil service test.
Oh, okay.
So she'll have to take the next civil service test thing.
Then probationary.
Alright. Nate, what do we have to do for probationary period? What's our? I know there's a range, like X months.
Yeah, so typically there's a minimum probationary period. If you're okay with that, then you can just say the probationary period is the minimum. I can't remember off the top of my head what the minimum is. It's several months. The maximum is 1 year.
So whatever you guys wanna do, kind of say minimum, something up to like.
Well, I would say at least until she's at her, test.
If she hasn't taken the test yet, then actually the appointment is called provisional. Once the test is taken, then the board would need to appoint her on a permanent term, which would then be subject to probation. So if she's not qualified because she hasn't taken the test yet, any appointment now is provisional.
So scratch out that someday I'll get the hang of this.
Provisional solution.
And a salary of 40,000 a year.
Start date is 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or after the test?
No, it's before the test,
Okay.
probably as soon as possible. I don't know how I want to word it, right? She's got to get notice to her other place.
Okay, so.
She needs to be trying to do.
Or she'll start.
Yeah,
Sure.
She wants to 2 weeks.
Okay, so start date is 2 weeks from now.
Right.
Yeah.
August first.
Whatever that turns out to be, around there.
Yeah, she can start collecting taxes.
That's right.
That's right.
That's part of the job.
That keeps it busy for one reason.
Yeah.
Charles made that motion that we all put together.
Who seconded that? Nobody seconded that.
Anybody want to second it?
Dave, you want to second?
I'll second it. Any discussion on that motion, or the hiring of the? In the interview, I think she'll be good. You work for it. Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave?
Run against your work drone. So self-adjustment, obviously, our self-adjustment knees, you know, which was adjust every time you change oil or whatever.
And how do you want?
Show you how to adjust.
Yes.
Anything else from the clerk?
Well, the other thing I was, just to mention, we're working with, Nate. So we've got these 6, 8, 10 different properties around the village that have been FEMA buyouts, that now the village owns, but we really don't want them. So the neighbors have a whole list of neighbors that will take the properties. So now we just have to figure out how to get rid of them, how to charge them, or whatever you wanna do to get rid of them. We want our guys, you know, to not to mow, not to shovel, not to do anything. And we just had a problem with, one of our vacant properties, a tree fell on the neighbors. If we didn't have that, we wouldn't have that problem. So I have a whole list of neighbors that will take the properties. They're all like next to the neighbors. So we just have to figure out, what do you charge them, or how do we get
Do we
rid
have
of
to put
them?
up a bid?
Well, no, because I want it to go to the neighbors, I don't want it to go to somebody else. I don't want somebody's, and then they can never build on them.
Right.
You know, they gotta be forever green, you can park on them or have a playground or something. It will just enhance the neighbors and enhance the neighborhood.
No garage.
Yeah, so
No garage. I don't think you put garage.
You can't have a garage now.
Yeah. Maybe have a
So-
she shed.
No, you can't have a
she shed.
shed.
No
Yeah.
structures,
No
right?
structures.
Yeah.
No structure.
And you
What were you
can't
saying,
park,
Nate?
right?
yeah, so to piggyback off of what Rod was saying, there can be no structures, and the process itself is actually, unfortunately, semi-complicated because that's just how FEMA is. There needs to be, if I recall correctly, photographs and then an application to FEMA for permission to transfer the property to the neighbor. And then we need some approximate valuation for the vacant land that's being transferred before the board authorizes it. But I think what Rod and I had discussed is tonight just getting a sense of the board. Are you interested in us moving forward with pursuing the steps that we need to follow in order to transfer these properties?
I think we should check now.
I mean, they're on William Street, Gear Street, a lot of them, quite a few on the flats, they're all over the place. But I don't see why the village needs these properties.
No.
Right.
Just finding a homeowner that would want to purchase them and be on a tax base.
Yeah.
With restrictions, lots of restrictions on you can't do anything with it.
Well, that's why I don't think we can charge them like like what you can charge a regular lot. I think we just have to come up with, you know,
Some kind of fair.
I don't wanna say anything until we come up with a more definite plan, but first we wanna make sure you guys are on the same page.
For a parking lot there, though.
Yeah.
Like,
They could probably have a parking lot.
Could have what there?
Forever.
Gravel, maybe.
Gravel,
Probably some that'll drain water.
Yeah.
gravel.
Some of the properties already changed hands, and thinking about Kanawani, you know, that they, at least one person's taken over a whole area, but I didn't know if that was ceded to them somehow, or they've done a beautiful job with it.
I don't know legally, they could just be taken over, I don't know.
Well, I'm sure, I think well, I don't think there was the ability to do that early on, right? So I think people did just, some of them jumped in, took care of things, but it's gorgeous down there. Yeah.
Most of the neighbors on these properties are mowing them, taking care of them, just like it's their property, but they would just like to own it, you know? And, you know, they don't want somebody else to buy it and just, you know, you could, if somebody owned it, you could probably put junk on it, just like people do.
Yeah. Or some bigger yard.
Yeah. Fencing the dog, and away you go. And then our guys don't have to shovel the sidewalks and mow or do tree repairs, you know, removals and stuff like that.
So this is the first of that then, not, I mean,
I think we had one.
We had one.
We had one over on McMaster Street, we did, remember that? We've done one that I know.
No shed and all
sorts.
You know, I'll build on them. Forever green.
Forever green. And that's part of the deed restrictions, we write in
In
these.
these portable ones, they bring it on a trailer, on a skating center, Amish shed or something. Yeah. Cause you can even get a garage on those skids, you can get it both put together, and it just lays on gravel.
We're not gonna sell them to you.
Next thing you know, there's a liquor license and.
He's not in a floodplain.
And you can't put a temporary shed on a floodplain property because it can blow away and damage other people's.
Yeah, there's some,
Yeah.
you have to
So
tie it
Forever
down.
Green, those properties have repetitive, repetitive failures over, you know, a series of times, and they proved that, you know, and then they went through that program, so it's all Forever Green, and there's a lot of restrictions on what you can put there because of all that process.
That's part of the thing, we'll have to come up with a list of what, you know, do's and what they can't do. They'll have to sign off on it, and they'll be put in their deed and.
Yeah, just as long as they know what they're purchasing.
Yeah.
I think we should go ahead.
Let's go ahead with that, okay, I'll start with Nate, and I'll come up with a list of, I have a list right here of some of the properties, where they're located.
I'm sure Fred.
You gotta come up with a form for it, right, and.
Yeah. Yeah,
A
we got.
possible price before we can talk to the neighbors.
Yep. Like I said,
And
I
if
have
there's
a- I
two
have a
neighbors,
list.
how are you gonna do that, and they both want it?
Dual.
Let's
Split
figure out.
it?
Well, if they both want, I would say we.
30 paces.
I would say, well, we have a,
Split it in half.
we have a list, but the worst case scenario is split in half, but then, right?
That costs money.
Well, they'll have to pay for it, I know surveyors.
There you go.
Okay, we'll work on that then, I'll tell them. I think we.
Figure it out. Copy of that list. Let's see, next thing, discussion on the Jake breaks. That's a Nate question, Nate, have we gotten anywhere on this Jake break thing? We keep putting it on here and putting it off.
Remind me, which one is the James Street issue?
Jake breaks.
Jake breaks.
Oh, Jake breaks. Yeah, sorry. I haven't been able to get anywhere. I mean, the state and federal government basically regulate interstate commerce that includes the application of Jake brakes to trucks like that. I'm not aware of any real mechanism we have to authorize the police to fine vehicles traveling through the village as a result of the use of Jake brakes.
Well, we'll keep checking into that. Oh, Kevin.
I meant to take a picture, but I see no 90 decibel decibel limit in a lot of different places. And I'll bet you guys up on North Avenue from DOT, if you ask them, they would put a sign up there. Now, granted, it's hard to enforce because you don't have a law and you don't have a certified decibel meter. But if some of them see that 90 decibel sign, they might make it quieter.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
And most of the streets involved are state roads.
Right.
That have.
And Jake Briggs be quiet.
And actually, the state will tell you, don't call them Jake breaks, because Jake is a industrial term for one company.
Oh,
Named after
Jake.
Jake.
State Farm.
State Farm.
State Farm.
Alright, so we'll keep checking into that. Discussion on EDU count for 44 Fox Street. I didn't put this on here, and I have no idea what the discussion is, so hopefully somebody else does. You know about that?
I don't know, didn't it have something to do with the residents wasn't being used?
You should review it for us.
From what I
That was a
understand,
different one.
what
No,
I
it's a different one, okay.
This is an apartment building, maybe a four-family.
Okay.
Okay. But it got plaque,
It's what?
got placard, which means, non-inhabitable at the moment.
Red tag.
Red tag, like a house.
Okay.
So the owner said, well, it's red tag, but I want an EDU reduction, but that's up to you guys.
Because it's not being used.
Well, we have
But it's not your fault, that it's not being used.
a form for that.
I don't see the form though, we don't have any paperwork.
Right.
Let's bring that up next time.
Yeah, maybe we can,
Get some more information.
I thought there was something.
I thought so too.
Look through your file. You don't have to. All right, you keep looking for that. We will go on this next transfer. Maybe Fran wants to table this.
Yeah, I think that needs to be tabled. Essentially what they're doing is taking 10,000 in interest from the perpetual care fund for the cemetery. And we need more clear answers from Nate on what funds from the perpetual care fund can be used for. The DPW wants to use some of it to buy mowing equipment. That's, to me, that's not maintaining the grave site. That's what the perpetual care fund is supposed to be. I don't know, is Nate still there? It's been years we've talked about this. We need clarification on what that perpetual care fund money can be used for.
So, Fran, I hear what you're asking right now, and I'll just ask that you, because it sounds like there's an issue with DPW is asking versus what you believe might be appropriate. If I could get clarification on exactly what the question is in a scenario like what you've just proposed, just in writing, that would help me actually review and conduct that research to answer the question.
I appreciate it because I'm just talking about buying equipment. And they already have equipment they buy for all the other parks. And cemetery is no different than any other park as far as buying mowers or weed eaters and et cetera.
Right, and I can see an argument that to the extent the perpetual care maintenance fund is allowed to be used for upkeep for the grounds, that allocating some portion of funds to purchase a vehicle and equipment would be appropriate. But I would guess we need to know more about the history of the equipment used to care for the cemetery, how that was paid for, whether the cemetery funds ever paid for anything like that, and then why they're asking this be used today.
We need the clarification from the state on exactly how the interest from the perpetual care fund can be used.
Okay.
You can work together with Nate.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So for the moment, I'd say we postpone that.
Next item, treasurer's report. Did everybody get it?
Motion we approve the.
I second that.
Any discussion on the treasurer's report? Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Ed, if you're still there? Yes for me.
That's a yes for me. I'm sorry, I was muted.
No problem. Fran, yes or no?
Oh, yes, I said yes. Sorry.
Next item is the minutes.
For the minutes, of June 20th, a motion to approve as, for June 20th, June 26th, and July 5th, to approve them all as submitted.
Second that.
Any discussion on those minutes? All three of them.
Too small, this is one regular meeting.
No. Moving on that, Fran?
Yes.
Charles?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Dave? Yes. Ed?
Yes.
I don't have that.
Mayor's report, public comment before trustees, after trustees.
All right, our normal, yeah, once we get to this, I know. Trustee reports. Laura?
I'm signed up to take one of those, extra courses for like planning and zoning and stuff, and it's on the cannabis laws. And so, it counts for credit for anybody in training, and it's free for us to take. I think it's like an hour or hour and a half. And it's about the laws and, about, about the process, for, the law, getting the laws in place. So probably received emails, maybe, Elaine Jardine.
Unfortunately, some of those things were.
Okay. Well, if anybody's interested, let me know and I will forward you information about, what the date is.
Email it to Rusty.
Email it to Rusty. Well, Dave and I got that training in NICOM this spring, so. We
It's a little
do need
bit
to start
different.
working on the laws.
Okay, so it's July 27th. It's called The Other Green Development, the New Phase of Cannabis, Local Regulatory Tools. And it's from 6 to 7 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
What date was that?
Thursday, July 27th. And then, HPC will meet before our next meeting, and I'll have another Climate Smart Communities task force meeting at the end of the month. I'll be attending. That's it.
Rusty this afternoon, and he is, at Bethany Beach, working on, maintaining and watching his relative's home. So he wanted to express his sorrow for not being here, but he's hard at work, 4 houses from the beach.
It sounds like it's pretty tough, yeah.
Yeah.
Now we gotta go to Hershey Park to get some of the beach. I got my backyard.
South City.
Free. You're good though? Brad?
Okay, well, with the, Evergreen Cemetery, it has been, designated as a National Registry of Historic Sites, since, 1973. And, we would like to have the OHPC include, that in their map of historic properties in the village. What that will do is help us in getting other state grant monies when it's part of the historic district. So, we have talked with, Jim about this on it. We'll bring it up some more about it.
Yeah, you should probably talk to Nate.
You probably won't get objection from the residents.
Well, it's a matter, like I said, it's just a matter of including in the historic map of properties.
We'll talk to Nate about how you get that to happen, cause I know there's a local law. That lists all that stuff.
Okay.
Wrap it up, public hearing.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm not asking for a decision tonight.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
Talk about it.
Include Nate in, cause he'll help us with the process.
Right. Okay, and, Saturday, August the 19th is the next, work date in the cemetery from, 9 to 12. And Tina and Dale Utter, who are, gravestone, preservation people, are gonna be coming to help teach, volunteers on, in the, Civil War section on how to, upright some of those stones. I mean, they're small headstones, but there's procedures we have to do to take care of that. Most of the trustees got, email from, William O'Connell. He's a village resident. He's concerned about, traffic on, Route 434 on the south side, which is part of the village. Right now, I guess the speed limit is set at 40. But, he said people pay no attention to that. They're all going 60 and 70 miles an hour over there. And, I think we should check into just like on 17C. Once it's part into the village property, we should change it to 30 miles per hour. I mean, that's something that, I'm sure we have to talk with the state about. But, like I said, it's the same as on 17C, I would think. Also, there's a, at, the end of the Belleville Lockwood Road where it meets 434, there is no stop sign. I don't know if that's just up to the village, since that is a village road or not.
That's a county road right now.
County road, okay, so we gotta
So
go
I
to,
did see an email go to Gary Hammond. County DPW.
okay,
Today.
because there should be a stop sign.
But yeah, one way or the other, there should be a stop sign there. Whether they put it there or we put it there.
Okay. That's all for me tonight.
Charles?
I think we, just about covered everything. DPW, fire department, anything else I had. I just wanna apologize for my common sense meter to be at DEFCON 1. There seems to be a lot of issues that I'm just questionable about to me, so. My haunches go up and I just gotta ask those questions or else you won't learn. That's all I got to say about that.
That's why we like to hear. All right, Ed, you got any trustee report?
Yeah, I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. Our next item is communications. Alright. We did get a request from Officer Pike, maybe, to forward to the traffic committee about no parking on Front Street where Lake Street comes out. There was an issue there where somebody parked and it wasn't painted right, or the painting had faded, or you want to get that to you guys?
Yeah, the stripes have faded, so there's some parking spots that people might not know whether they're able to park or not.
But there's an issue in the parking law related to that striping.
Okay.
A car was there and you couldn't give it a ticket because it's not correct in the law.
What does that have to say? No parking?
In the law, yeah, it specifies X number of feet here and there. So something wasn't right, so you couldn't give the car a ticket. So he wanted us to fix the law to match the striping.
Change the striping to match the law. Somebody tried to take down one of the no parking signs in front of the bookstore too. Or they hit it with an excavator or something, but it's hanging by one bolt and it's all last.
So I'll get you what he wrote up, it's on my desk. I'll get you what he wrote up, it's on my desk.
Okay, yeah, if you could, we, over the years, we added a couple of spaces and then took them away because of the view of people coming down the street, whether they could turn or not. And so I think they added 3 and then they had to take one away, so there's 2 added spaces. But if somebody's still parking in the 3rd, then they can't get a ticket.
That's something of it, yes.
Well, I had something from my personal driving experience. Coming from Front Street down Page Street to the corner of Main Street. You know what I'm talking about, right?
There's always a van.
There's a van parked there, there's other vehicles, you gotta inch up and while you're looking there to make sure there's no cars coming. At night it's easier because the headlights you can tell. But if you're looking right, because cars can come flying down there doing the maximum speed limit that they can do.
Good spot for that little speed
Yeah,
thing they've got.
yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get out right in the middle of the
Yeah,
road.
and I just have visions of being T-boned every time I come across that.
Across Main Street.
Yep, crossing Main
Years
Street.
ago, Judge Boland got nailed right there.
Yeah, so I don't know if we can do anything about that, or, I don't know.
No parking from the corner needs to be further.
Yeah. And what is with, there's some streets where, I can't remember, it doesn't look like there's supposed to be 2-sided parking. Oh, down Main Street, it's not because of the construction they're doing. When you park in between those, cars in front of the library, and the other side, I don't know if they park it further away from the curb, but it looks like the tunnel that Luke Skywalker had to go through to dump that thing in the, you know, to kill the Death Star. It's really narrow. Sometimes you can't put 2 cars on that street. That's that same area where Main and Page comes out.
Same spot.
Yeah.
They're parking on both sides
Yep.
of Main?
Is it supposed to be? I didn't think.
Yes.
Well, it's gotten narrow. I don't know.
It doesn't seem narrow.
It's gotten narrow.
Cars are getting bigger.
Cars are getting
Wider?
There's always been double, parking
It
on both
didn't
sides.
seem
of the
so
street.
narrow.
It gets pretty full when the church has something going on, weddings, there's a event at the library and stuff like that. On Front Street, they complained about that when there was events happening, that, filled the street and then they couldn't get traffic down.
Same problem.
Yeah.
I'm just on high alert every time I come around that corner, come down that street, because you never know. Somebody putting their makeup on or dunking their chicken nugget in the sauce and just come over a little bit, that's all it takes.
Yeah, might have complained about that on Page Street, that, how people park
Another reason why Page Street should be one way, all the way.
Why? They come down the wrong way anyway.
Yeah, true. They do that on,
Even-
they do that on Central Avenue, all
So
of them.
even OPD comes down Page Street the wrong way.
I watched an Amazon Prime guy go the wrong way
Yeah.
on Page Street.
I can stand in my kitchen and watch probably 3 cars a night come down the wrong way.
And there's one.
Really?
flight.
Yeah.
Just the one, because they
From
don't
Main
know.
to front.
Yeah.
The sign is right there.
It's
How come
one
you
way.
don't know? It's one way. Yeah, they come down it the wrong way all the time.
It's easy to do though.
So, and like, well, it's a common sense thing. Like during the Strawberry Fest, they'll block off the parking on Page Street. So then they park in the road on the other side because it's not blocked off in the roadway. So they figured, can't park here, so I'll just park in the road.
To pave the road.
I complained about that
The arrow.
last year.
This is crazy.
Auto parking, when we make them not park there, they find somewhere to park their car. Whatever.
They just don't obey the
Car.
signs.
Parking, we all got big yards.
Pit parking.
All right, anyway, we're on communications. Anyway, I've got off topic. The next thing is mayor's report. Busy, although I've been on vacation for Park. I think what's coming up, not much, a lot of DRI stuff. It's gonna be pretty busy. And the last thing is public comment.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
I forgot that the Tioga County Museum is having
Oh, yeah.
a special program on, July the 29th, which is Saturday. They're having, well, right now they have the displays of all the emergency services and people for the county. They're having, antique fire trucks from all around Tioga County there that day. And the, host team is also doing a chicken barbecue there on the property at the museum.
Yep. Yeah, I saw that on Facebook. Big good chicken over there. July 29th.
Okay, sorry.
What is the fair?
Oh, I
We don't
guess.
have the fair, huh?
August 8th,
There's not-
maybe 11th or 12th.
There we go.
It's not on there.
8th to 12th.
Starts at 8?
That calendar's just for this room.
Oh,
Doesn't it start on the 8th?
Yes,
8th of August. Yeah.
8th to 12th.
8th as well.
So I have a question. Public smoking.
Yep.
What is the law on that?
So, my wife did a lot of research on this.
Was this because you got tagged in a post?
Yeah, I have to give her credit. I got tagged in a post, I spelled cannabis wrong. Clearly I don't smoke it.
There's no way to smoke cannabis wrong.
Well, I can spell it wrong.
Just spell it weed.
I shouldn't use pot, I don't know. Anyway, so she did a lot of research, so apparently in October, and I confirmed this with Nate earlier, Governor Hochul signed a law that bans smoking in any state or local municipal owned park. In general, cannabis, the only thing it doesn't ban is vaping, cigarettes, everything.
Can you get that,
Do is
you
post
get that in the
signs.
vape too?
What's that?
Maybe we need to
No,
have
it
some
specifically
signs.
says it doesn't ban vaping.
I don't,
Maybe we need to have some signs in
We're
our
working on
parks.
that.
like I said, I don't smoke it either.
An email, I can spell it.
Well,
They're gonna stop them.
It's not just pot smoke, it's.
It's
it's
smoke in
smoke
general.
in general.
Yeah,
So
we
say
can't,
somebody's sitting in front of the coffee shop next to our shop, and we have our door open, and somebody's out there smoking a cigar.
Right.
That smoke comes right into our
And that's part
building.
of the,
being pot smoke, cigarette smoke, or whatever smoke.
that's part of
sidewalk is part of,
the New York, where you can't smoke within X number of feet of a door or whatever.
Entrance, yeah. Business.
So the sidewalk isn't really included, but that door
Those doors are.
that's your entrance.
Can you repeat what you said, the law is coming into effect or already came into effect in October and it was no
Yeah, it's already
smoking
in
in
effect.
public parks? It's already in effect? No smoking in public parks?
Yeah, there's more places too. It's like public parks, beaches, some kind of camps.
So the pool is actually in a public park.
Right. So
So,
Marvin Park is no smoking.
so they shouldn't have been smoking by the pool.
Right. So our obligation as a municipality, we have to put up signs.
Oh, see,
So-
signs, people don't read them.
So I'm working on putting up signs.
Maybe other people. we can
Now,
tell them.
Does that also cover like festivals, like
Yep.
the Strawberry Festival,
Well,
certain number of
Said
people?
something about
No,
taking their kids.
not if it's not in the park.
Swimming pool.
Like the fair, it's
It's not
covered, but it's in the park.
But
The
the
grand-
courthouse square is
Cheap tag.
a park, right?
Right.
But people smoke all the time, don't they?
We can't designate sidewalks, public streets as parks.
No, but we could adopt, if we want to do that, we could adopt a local law.
A local law stating that.
They put up signs during the Strawberry Fest saying it was a smoke-free zone.
Yeah.
Did that
You
help?
still smell weed all over. the place.
Yeah, we don't have
I
a
didn't
law,
put-
we
once
don't
I
have a
left,
law,
I
so
didn't
they
come
can't
back.
enforce it.
Like maybe public properties or public buildings are outside like or our grounds, are,
They're not part of that.
they're not part of it.
We could adopt our own law. There is a.
You said the OHPC is looking at that, right? Or the planning board? Didn't you say that the planning board or OHPC was, talking about smoking? No? Okay.
Within 100 feet of entrances, exits, or outdoor areas.
Federal
of
clean
public
air
area.
or something like that.
Right, talking about the conference, the training thing that's coming up. Is that for planning and zoning?
Never mind. It's just, sorry.
But yeah, so that New York State law applies to all of our parks. And there's a lot more parks than you think of. There's Marvin Park, there's Draper Park, the other side of Barleycorn is Mayor's Park. Each end of the courthouse is technically a village park. Bowling Park.
Is the Riverwalk considered? That's
Riverwalk?
The Riverwalk.
How about the Riverwalk?
Would that be considered like a boardwalk? Because that's on the list.
I don't know if that's an actual park or it's easements, but,
Boardwalk,
we
beaches,
own it.
Park.
marinas,
We-
playgrounds, recreation centers.
And our public trails that we have, are those included?
Probably.
And, the boat launch and the Canalana
Yeah.
Nature Preserve.
Yeah, that would be on the marinas.
We have a lot of parks,
But we don't have parking.
but no parking.
Would our parking lots be included or something like that? If we wanted them to, I guess.
Well, I mean, we can make anything included.
Well, it's village property, is it not?
Right, so we can do a village law that says no smoking on village property. That would just exclude all of it, so.
A smoke-free village.
Right.
Across the bridge, you sign.
It's basically another law that you can't enforce.
Backyard.
Well, yeah, enforcement.
Gotta go on the other side of the bridge.
There's already a lot of laws on the village books that nobody enforces,
Enforcement's the
They
hard
smoke
part.
in your car.
that should just be wiped out.
They'll open your window.
But we can put signs up, and signs will probably stop 85% of the problem.
Is there a fine?
Yes.
Is it written on the sign?
It's supposed to be, it's not very much, it's a civil penalty of $50 or something.
Like each offense, or they'll maybe write it on the sign or something like that?
Yeah.
People see it.
I think it's supposed to be on the side.
Spread it out. Fundraiser.
Fundraiser.
Fine for smoking.
So,
Yeah, somebody, we just like that.
any other public comments?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
I got a few. It all got brought up tonight, so. With the, property on North Avenue. Now, because, land bank and IDA and all that are involved, are they still gonna have to go through OHPC?
Yes.
Okay. Same thing with anybody building over Temple and Liberty, because unless OHPC's changed their map, according to the village site, that property is in the historic district.
It's a lump, but maybe, if they are, then.
I came to a meeting and mentioned, and then, oh, we're gonna change, that's not right, we're gonna change, just like they said where I'm on Page Street, it's not in the historic district, but on their map, it's in the historic district. So those are my first two. What was my third one?
81 North Ave is in the historic district.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Goes up to the fire station.
What's that?
The 81.
Yeah, that is in the historic
That is.
district. Yeah, I know, but I wanted to make sure they were good, because I had heard something to the effect that they are exempt from having to go through OHDC.
No, they
I wanted
have
to make sure that was, that I was misinformed.
through that, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the pit.
And actually, they'll have to go through worse than that, because they'll have to do ship them.
Yeah.
If they get a Main Street grant.
The pit, here's your solution to the pit. Solves the parking problem, especially at Strawberry Festival. Pave it, make it paid parking. You don't have to use DRI money for it. You can
Just
use
put up
village
a
money
sign
for
that
it, make it a
says-
paid parking lot where the village is actually making a little money off the deal.
Remove your car if it's gonna rain, that's all you gotta put. Just,
Yep.
just the way it is.
You know, cause I swear, one more person starts talking about a parking garage.
No, you can't afford it.
That's way too expensive.
Somebody said the other day something about putting a parking garage where M&T Bank is. Do they, how stupid are people? Do they realize the cost of that?
And the maintenance.
And who's gonna pay for it?
Well, and how horrible it
Oh,
would
yeah.
have a lovely village.
M&T Bank is gonna want hundreds of thousands of dollars more than what that property is worth, than the cost of building a parking garage. And who's gonna pay for that?
And if it's not right there, nobody will use it.
And they're gonna gonna maintain it, and then they're still gonna complain that they can't park because it'll be, well, I've gotta park on the third floor of the parking garage because too many people are parked on the first floor. You gotta do something about parking. You
And
know,
if the parking goes up in the pit, think of all those businesses that gotta walk past to get your car.
Yeah.
There's a lot of businesses there that will flourish.
People won't walk that. They won't walk, they don't use the other lots that are available to them.
well, Hyde Lot, I can understand why people don't use that. Cause it's, till it gets paved, that's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Even just
Yeah.
to drive through it.
Yeah, that's like the moon.
It's a traffic control device.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah, we pave it, then they go too fast.
I liked it when we had our construction on our street.
Right.
That big giant hump.
Everybody slowed down, or you lost your car.
Yeah. I used to like to hear a UPS truck come down, barreling down, and all that stuff go up and hit the car.
That was quite the speed bump we had for quite a while.
As long as I didn't order anything that week.
So in reference to the pit, trying to make that into a parking lot, they call it a pit for a reason.
Yeah.
Parking lots have to be pretty flat. I don't know, I've been in engineering and surveying for 40 years. Trying to put a parking lot in there is not gonna be easy. It's gonna be a lot of grading or a lot of fill, and it's
Which are things you can't do to contaminate the ground.
And as far as the contamination, once they start finding that stuff down there, I mean, it was Miller's lumberyard for years. I mean, who knows what they were doing back there, I mean, that's where all that crap came from. Who knows how deep it is, and if you go down 6 feet and it's still down there, they're gonna tell you to go deeper. I mean, I hate to see the, art park go away, but
It's a literal money pit.
Yeah,
We sunk so much money into that
yeah,
pit.
my gut tells me that would turn out to be an incredibly, expensive and potentially liability, for lack of a better word, toxic cleanup.
Which it still could be right now because the DEC knows about it.
Right.
From what James said, as long as we don't go digging in there, they're not gonna
Yeah,
force
but they
us.
already know about it.
Yeah.
And you know how fast the state works.
They could.
That's what I was
Do it
saying.
anyway.
He says you don't have to worry about it unless you do more digging, but they could come back on you years from now.
They could.
They better give us money.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Is there any other public comment?
Not while we're there, can't we?
See you guys next time.
Well, at least I wasn't